Hi, this is Doug Kreitzberg. I'm CEO of SeedPod Cyber, and we're having another episode of Click Happens. And of course, I'm joined by Kyle Saudi, Chief Revenue Officer and EVP of Underwriting. Hi, Kyle.
Hey, Doug.
And as well as Sinclair Morris, who heads up our partner relationships. Sinclair, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well, doing well. A little bit of something in the chest coming back. I know you'll feel sorry for me coming back from an island somewhere over the holidays, so you can get the little violins out. But other than that, I'm doing great here. So everyone have a good Thanksgiving, Kyle.
Excellent Thanksgiving. One of my favorite holidays of the year. I always cook an extra turkey, so that was devoured in a day. So yeah, good times over here.
All right. Well, that's great. That's great. Sinclair, what about you?
Yeah, it was really nice, relaxing. A couple of days off in a row. That was good. No turkey for me, just Italian food, lasagna, meatballs.
There you go.
Do they have turkeys in Florida? Is that a thing or no? There's just no turkeys.
Yeah, we've got turkeys.
I don't think they're native to Florida. I don't think so. I'm just putting it out there.
I don't know. I'll have to look it up.
Unfortunately, and we are in the, at least Kyle and I are in the Philly sports area. It wasn't a great weekend for Philly sports, at least for the Eagles there.
Doug, I don't know if I told you, I actually went to the game. I took my oldest child to his first football Eagles game ever, and afterwards I said, what was like the biggest surprise that you had being at a game in person? He goes, I can't believe how much they swear. I'm like, oh gosh, yeah, sorry, bud.
Yep.
Philadelphia.
That's our Eagles fan base for us there. But we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about cyber insurance and cybersecurity. And during I guess it was right before Thanksgiving, there was some news coming out of one of the main insurance carriers in this space, Beazley. Kyle, do you want to kind of speak to what that news was?
Yeah, just as a recap of the market's been really soft for about 2 to 3 years, and a big reason is you have a lot of new capacity providers, a lot of new entrants coming in, and the claims though have not been going down. In fact, they've actually been ticking up. And so I think what's happening right now is, especially the bigger carrier providers are kind of looking at the margins and realizing they're getting shorter, and as premiums go down, right, claims go up, you're starting to lose money. So I saw that the CEO came out at Beazley saying, wasn't expecting this kind of market dynamic and that there would be more smarter underwriting, that sort of thing. I didn't read it. I actually had some people reach out to me asking for my thoughts on it, and I didn't read it as they're pulling back. They're certainly not, I don't think, pulling back, globally where there's a lot of opportunity. I just think in the US, I think my message there is that it's probably, a continued focus on disciplined underwriting. I think we talked about this a couple months ago on one of these podcasts, but I think what everybody wants is more of a stable market. Cheaper rates for clients, that's not a bad thing, but it's a bad thing if it's not sustainable. And we're going to see a huge spike like we did back in 2019 to 2020 when rates went 30, 40, 50, actually 80% or more. Nobody wants that. So I think everybody's looking for more of like a level stability. And I think that's what the CEO was kind of getting at and saying, maybe enough's enough on pricing, but we'll see. I also read another report somewhere that they were projecting that Q1 of next year will continue to see a slide in rates. So we'll see what's coming.
Yeah. And when I initially read that article, I didn't think he was talking about pulling back either. There, but then subsequent articles about the article seem to pile on that here. Do you feel that and this is not just typical to cyber insurance. Every type of insurance has market cycles, where the market is hard for a period of time, to get because of underwriting losses, and then that drives additional capacity coming in, which then you start seeing rates to soften. And I would agree. I think beyond just the rates going down, which isn't a bad thing, certainly from an insured perspective, and it may not be. It doesn't have to be a bad thing from an insurer perspective. But what I have seen is the underwriting, kind of the discipline kind of going out of the window, and by discipline I just mean what was thought to be important controls are no longer seem to be required for some of these carriers. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah. I think that's the scary part. I think over the last 4 to 5 years, you've seen a divergence, and I think you have some markets that are requiring minimum control standards. And the easiest one to talk about, multi-factor authentication, MFA. Do you have that, for remote connection and other places? But if we had an open book and we could see every single cyber insurance policy ever written in the last 12 months with every single carrier, my presumption would be the carriers that are placing cyber insurance programs with insureds that have good controls or minimum baselines are probably going to have a lot less losses than those that are kind of saying, we'll do anything. We don't really care about controls. Maybe we'll look at a scan, and that's how we'll make our assumption, with the thought process of if they write a big enough pool, they can handle those losses. It's not what I'm hearing kind of on the street, is that those losses are starting to catch up with folks. So it is a little surprising every so often. And listen, I go back and forth. If you're a client and you need cyber insurance, but you don't have MFA, I still think cyber insurance, there should be some kind of solution. But I think the best situation is when you have a client that's well educated on cybersecurity and understands that investment in MFA and other controls is going to save them money down the road. And by the way, especially from our experience, we see rates way more affordable when you are a client that has good controls in place. And also, you're just less likely to have a loss. I use the word low-hanging fruit. You're not the low-hanging fruit. Cyber criminals are lazy like everyone else. They much rather knock on the door where the door is unlocked and go in there than the 5 houses that have locks and a security gate, right? They don't, if they can easily get in, they'll just go that way. So that's what they're focused on. And unfortunately, there's a lot of options out there for them.
Right. And Sinclair, what are you seeing as you're talking to clients, either those, and especially those that have coverage or are considering coverage from others, and in addition to us? We require a certain minimum baseline of security in place, and is that tough to sell, or are you able to demonstrate that it provides value to you as a business when you have these things in place?
Yeah. I mean, because I do head up our partnership relationships, a lot of the communication I have with clients and small to medium-sized businesses are already working with an MSP. And, between their expertise and in a lot of cases, the results that we generate through our insurability audit, looking at insurability standards and our requirements, tend to back up what the MSP has already been saying is really important and necessary. So I feel like that conversation almost always, when we address it holistically the way we do, you can tell the client understands the importance of it. And they may still think it's annoying, like someone I was speaking with earlier about MFA. Just for the owners, they didn't want to have to use the MFA. But yeah, I mean, they understand and they end up just dealing with it, especially also if they see the savings. I mean, it's a trade-off. You pick your hard.
Right. I guess, one thing that you mentioned that just kind of hit me is because we, SeedPod, we deal with MSPs and work with MSPs, especially MSPs who have a certain focus in the security for their clients, we're almost self-selecting those clients who are ready to, and ready to kind of buy into the fact you need to have the certain security controls in place. There's still a large percentage of perhaps the marketplace that aren't working with MSPs or aren't working with MSPs perhaps who are as focused and diligent on that there. Very, very interesting with regards to it. And I, from my standpoint, I do feel that irrespective of the insurance, as a business, you really need to pay attention to the minimum security controls in place. I think that because your reputation is at stake, there's other aspects beyond what the insurance can provide that can really kind of hurt you. I think the insurance marketplace, when the market began to change in 2019-20, actually took a leadership role in terms of helping to strengthen and making aware, driving awareness that certain controls were important. And I'm kind of saddened to see that leadership is kind of, that they've kind of dropped the mantle. I'm not saying everyone, obviously, but you know who you are out there. Kyle, is this just, it just is what it is, and it's part of a market cycle, or do you think Beazley is just trying to create a hard market here by throwing something out and trying to get everybody in lockstep to start raising their rates?
I think it's a smart move by a CEO to try and influence the market a little bit. There's nothing wrong with that. It's interesting. You were just taking me down memory lane of that 2019, 2020. And even what happened during that time period was it was actually a re-underwriting of all the entire cyber books, because before that, all of the underwriting was really based on data breach. And, that would be like your PCI question. To be honest, we still ask a bunch of those questions, but what the market leaders had to do from an underwriting perspective is understand the kind of the chain of a ransomware event. And if I recall, initially, we really thought it was email security, internal security, and then like backup and recoveries. And then you followed the chain of what could happen through that to get to the worst case possible. So all of the applications were reestablished, new underwriting questions. And then it really took more like 18 months to 24 months to re-underwrite the entire book of business. And this is everybody would start doing this on their own time periods to really say, okay, we have our hands around our book of business on ransomware exposure now. But no, you're so right. I mean, and not to pick on Beazley. Beazley came out and said this publicly as well, but the market said after the hard market ended that, oops, we did get a little too much rate. We probably didn't need all of that rate. And those were tough times because they just came off 1 or 2 years of like bad losses, really bad. And, when you're pushing rate, you're saying, okay, are these losses going to continue? Well, no, they stabilized and they were making money again. So I think they made too much, but then it's when competition comes in and people don't care about controls. And unfortunately, the one thing, and this is hard to tell an underwriter because underwriters live in their own world, but it's a business at the end of the day, right? And if you have a client and you're working with a broker and the broker says, look, we've got 3 options here. 2 don't really need you to complete an application. They just did their scan and they're competitive. And this one wants you to spend an hour completing an app. It's up to you. I understand why a business might say, okay, let's just go with these 2 options. So it's not ideal, but it's what's happened in the last, 1 or 2 years. And it's definitely gotten away. And again, not everyone. And if you look at large risk accounts, there's very deep underwriting that goes into that. There's meetings and stuff. But in the middle market and small segment, yeah, it's fair to kind of question what's happened.
Right. I would agree there, and the Sinclair. How are the MSPs that we work with, our partners? How much do they understand of the dynamics of the insurance marketplace? Do they have a pretty good grasp of it, or are they asking, do we provide, which we do, provide the guidance and what's going on? Are we kind of helping them kind of figure out what craziness is happening on the insurance side?
I mean, of course, to some extent, probably at a very high level, like looking at the evolution of cyber insurance, where we're at right now, being a stable market, rates are a little lower. I've been under the impression that point of entry is higher, and that's why we're seeing a stable market. Personally, I don't really understand the inner workings of it myself, because I know that ransomware is the most severe incident, accounted for 91% of losses in the first half of 2025, but yet we're not seeing, any adjustments yet. You mentioned it's actually getting easier for mid-market businesses to get in and get affordable rates with minimal security. So, I mean, it's very complex. I think at a high level, our partners do have an understanding of where the market is, especially if they've been with us for a few years and they've seen, the differences in what we're quoting, right?
Right. Yeah, and it's tough because you hear, as you said, you hear the sky is falling. Ransomware attacks have gone up, frequency. There's some high severity events, and yet the brokers are beating up on the carriers because they can still get better pricing from somebody.
They remember, those carriers, what they said during the hard market. They're getting their flesh back. They're
right. They're definitely, the pounds of flesh keep moving from one side to the other.
Well, for those that aren't asking as in-depth underwriting questions around security, what does that look like when forensics does come out? Does it just not matter if something's in place? I mean,
Kyle, what happens?
Yeah, I think kind of the scenario you're talking about, Sinclair, is when a claim is denied. What does that look like? Ultimately, I think if they're looking back at what's called the submission material, and if you're a market that's just doing a scan and you're not really relying on anything from the client other than an attestation saying you didn't have a loss, you can't really deny anything at that point. That would be different than an application that a client signing that says, I use MFA on every, third-party connection, and then a loss happens, and through forensics, they figure out they never had MFA. So I think it's different. But yeah, I mean, if you're a market that's just doing kind of non-intrusive scanning, you don't really know the security posture of a company, there's nothing really, they're just going to, I guess, take the loss. And there's, other than forensics figuring out for the client, there's nothing to figure out for the insured.
Yeah. Usually, when the claims start happening, the underwriters start ending up at different companies.
Yeah, that's
you get the Ferris wheel.
I told you before, you got to be careful of the underwriter that's been there the longest, because you're like, are they changing the account names when they have a claim?
Right, exactly.
Ed just laughed. Man, that guy had a lot of losses. I don't know.
Exactly. There. The other I guess topic is which I'm sure we all remember, is November 30th, after we woke up from our tryptophan-induced coma. That it was National Computer Security Day. Did I get that right, Kyle? And which is just like Black Friday and Cyber Monday. those deals last long after Friday and Monday. The same thing hopefully is happening with computer security, and we can still think about it and talk about it here. Sinclair, with obviously you're working with the MSPs, you're working with businesses. What are kind of the 3 or 4 kind of low-hanging fruits that a business can focus on to really kind of up its game in the security arena?
Are you talking about like from a eligibility standpoint for?
No, just in general, setting aside the insurance for a moment, kind of, if you wake up, when you wake up tomorrow, if you're a business owner and you shoot an email to your IT person, it could be an MSP, what are the 3 things you should say? Do we have this? Do we have that? Do we have the other thing?
Yeah. I mean, beyond the baseline controls that we're always talking about, like MFA, first line of defense, endpoint detection and response, we know how important that is for preventing ransomware. Some of those baselines. I know there's one that always I don't come across many businesses that have it, but a SIM solution, and how important that is for reporting an incident and for providing information to the carrier when something does happen. And I don't know why that would be, but that is one that I think is really important and could be super helpful in the event of something happening.
So kind of break that down for those who may not know what a SIM, and it's SIM, not SIN solution.
Yeah.
But what is that?
So just like audit logging, collecting and centralizing security logs, like analyzing different events that have happened in real time, and then alerting and obviously escalating suspicious activity. But like when it comes to incident response, compliance reporting, and obviously just auditing in general, I feel like SIM is a really powerful tool that I don't see very many businesses have in place.
So basically, it keeps track of everything that's being done in your system. Is that what that is?
Right. And has it all centralized in one location.
Okay. All right. And that's good, because if bad things happen, you can go back and look at it to kind of see when did that start happening, right?
Exactly. Yep.
It becomes a way. That's interesting there. Kyle, what are some of the things that low-hanging fruit that you think businesses should be focusing on that maybe they're not?
Yeah, the one thing I had to add, the funniest application I ever saw as an underwriter, it was, what kind of cyber controls do you have? And they put, we have a fence and dogs. And I was like, well, that's kind of good and helpful in a way. I don't know how that's going to work online. We didn't write that one, by the way. But honestly, I go back to data management. I get all excited whenever I see a client or talk to maybe a client that's really focused on data management in the sense of like who, what, when, where, why. So like, what kind of data do you have? What are the different slides of data? Where do you keep it? How long do you store it for? Like all of those different things. As you become a bigger organization, that becomes really complex with the different privacy laws, with GDPR, global data protection regulation, all of those different things. And I even had, this is long ago, I had a business explain to me how they were hyper-focused. Their strategy was so strong around data that they had to move their data from a cloud provider because the cloud provider was sitting in a country where if there was an investigation, they could they would not get access to their data. So they had to move it out of that. And I was like, whoa. So you can see like the levels of sophistication that happen with that. But yeah, I think that's the easiest, because you think about ransomware, you think about business email compromise, they're all trying to get a hold of the data and then either, for ransomware, keep it from you or extort you because of the type of data they've taken. So if you have good controls around that, again, whether that's scrubbing it or taking the really privileged information and making sure it's extra protected, I think that's a great baseline.
Yeah. That's a good point, and it becomes important as AI becomes more entrenched in our organizations too. Yeah, I think from my standpoint, just to not to repeat what's been said, but one is really focusing on something that doesn't, I mean, it involves your system, but isn't the system, and that's the incident response plan that you have. Usually, most businesses, small businesses in particular, don't have one, or if they have one, it's a template that they pulled off and they never updated or customized for themselves, and probably didn't really share it with anyone, so it could be something that the IT person, did, or the CFO did, and then they store it online. So if there's a ransomware, if it's encrypted, they can't get access to it anyway. And I think that's where you can burn a lot of money by not having a good response plan. Not even, I mean, and I'm speaking somewhat from experience because I was involved in an incident in a prior life, and we didn't have a plan. We didn't have a methodology to reach out to clients who may have been affected there, and we didn't, we had to, spend a lot of money on lawyers and other people to tell us what to do. And that just adds to the cost. And so having a plan and then periodically reviewing it and even testing it, they call it tabletop sessions, I think can be really helpful there. So so that would be something that I think can be something that a business may want to consider doing there. So we've got data, we have IR plan, we have the audit collection, the SIM SIEM, not SIN tool here, as important things that businesses may not be thinking about there. So something for you all to consider. And if you focus on those things and then work with the right, someone like let's say SeedPod, you could get you get the insurance, and they'll recognize will recognize what you're doing from a security standpoint there. So that's I think that will wrap up this post Thanksgiving version of Click Happens. Kyle and Sinclair, as always, great to see you, great to speak with you. Appreciate the contribution that you're making with SeedPod, certainly, but also for the audience here. And wish you all the best. And as all of you enjoy this entire week of National Cyber Computer Security that we have. All right. Take care.
Yeah. Thank you.
See ya. Bye-bye.